Okay, so let's start with the theory. I'm going to share you the PPT. Students, can you see this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this step is setting. Okay, tell me students what I told you about the setting. In last lecture, I explained you a little bit about setting. So tell me what is setting?
मीन्स कि अगर फैब्रिक में कोई डिफेक्ट है उसको फिक्स करना.
Right.
मैम अगर उसकी लेंथ में थोड़ी प्रॉब्लम है, जैसे कहते हैं ना कि अनइवन शेप में है, उसको सही करना.
To control the width of the fabric.
यस मैम.
In setting, it controls the width of the fabric. The setting of fabric is usually done on the machine, which is known as the stanter machine. Stanter is used for open foam fabric. This is the image of this machine. This is the stanter machine. The main purpose of setting is to set the width of the fabric so that we are able to print or dye the fabric according to the requirements. In this, it is finished with chemicals. Also, it controls shrinkage. GSM of fabric is also controlled with the help of stanter machine. At the end of all the process, the fabric is dried. Okay? As the fabric is finished with the chemicals in the first step, then at last it is dried in the stanter machine. Then the fabric is collected here in the box. Okay?
मैम जीएसएम क्या होता है?
GSM is the thing जिससे हम फैब्रिक का वेट को देखते हैं, उसे कहते हैं GSM, ग्राम स्क्वायर मीटर. अभी इसको एक्सप्लेन में हम बाद में इसको डिस्कस करेंगे, बिकॉज दिस इज द वेरी बिग टर्म. अभी इसके डिस्क्रिप्शन काफी है, सो वी विल डिस्कस इट लेटर. Basically, this is used to weight the fabric. वेट को मेजर करने के लिए इस टर्म को यूज करते हैं हम, GSM. So the next process is dyeing and printing. Firstly, we will discuss about the dyeing. Dyeing is the process of adding color to textile products like fibers, yarns, and fabrics. Dyeing is normally done in a special solution containing dyes and particular chemical material. So there are two types of dyes. First is natural and second is synthetic. Natural dyes are those which are extracted from the natural substances like plants, animals, minerals. And second is synthetic, which is made in laboratory and some contains metals as well. There is a machine called thermosol dyeing machine. This is the machine, thermosol dyeing machine. The process followed is continuous dyeing process. This process is totally continuous process in which dry cloth is passed full width through a trough of hot dye solution. Then the fabric goes between padded rollers that squeeze in the color evenly and removes the excess liquid. Students, are you getting what I'm trying to say? There are the padded rollers in the machine which squeeze the color, extra color जो है, that squeeze evenly and also remove the excess liquid. Fabric padded with dye solution firstly, then it is dried at 100 degrees Celsius in the dryer. Fabric passed through thermosol unit for color fixing. Then Unfixed dyes are washed off. The dyes which are not totally fixed on the fabric, at the last they are washed off. Next is printing. Printing is the application of color in the form of paste on the surface of fabric. Colors applied in certain parts only. Certain parts are like where there are some kind of patterns. Patterns like paisley pattern ho gaya, kuch symmetrical patterns are there. So with the help of printing, they are only applied to the certain parts where we required. It sharply defined the patterns. Of course, when the color is pasted, color is applied to those parts, then they will sharply define. They will emboss. So types of printing are like wooden blocks, stencils, silk screens. Students, do you know about these printing techniques?
Yes, ma'am.
Wooden
मैं
blocks are
wooden
like
blocks और stencils यूज किए हैं.
हाँ जी. So there are also screen printing. There are the
मैम
big
अभी
small
इसको नहीं यूज किया.
ये भी आप further अभी करोगे. Screen
Yes, ma'am.
printing is also very interesting. This is the printing machine. Step by step, the fabric is passed through these frames and then it is printed. It is known as the Zimmer machine. Textile industries use digital textile printing mechanism, print small as well as large pattern. It is totally based on the inkjet technique, mostly use Zimmer machine. So this is the Zimmer machine which help in the printing process. Students, समझ में आ रहा है मैं क्या बता रही हूँ? Inkjet
Yes,
printing,
ma'am.
better. This is the type of computer printing, like digital printing. So the next one is washing. Washing is done after dyeing process. After dyeing, this is the drying of fabric, which is done on the pad steam machine, and then fabric goes to the chemical pad. Dye stuff is fixed on the fabric. Then it is performed with the sulfur dye. After that, it goes for the fixation process. At the end, fabric goes through washing pads to remove unfixed dye stuff. This is the washing machine after dyeing. Then there is curing process, which is done after printing. If the fabric is printed, so it is need to be cured. Curing is the process of hardening the color onto the fabric so that it won't remove after washing. The temperature must be set about 150 degrees Celsius. Students, kindly note down the important points. The temperature need to be set about 150 degrees Celsius. Hair dryers and household tumble dryers are not suitable for this, because they won't get enough hot. This is the curing machine. After that, the process is inspection of printed fabric. After the printing and dyeing and curing, the fabric sample is sent to the printing and dyeing laboratory for pilling and staining, where these pilling and staining tests are performed. Color bleeding is also is the kind of a test which is performed on the dry and wet cotton clothes. This piece of cotton, this is color bleeding test. Which samples are given for this test are rubbed on the printed fabric normally for 10 cycles. Then वो देखते हैं कि क्या वो जो प्रिंट हुआ है वो ठीक है या नहीं, प्रिंटिंग अच्छी है, उसकी क्वालिटी अच्छी है या नहीं. Then there is the finishing process. Textile finishing is the term used for a series of processes to which all bleached, dyed, and printing and certain gray fabrics are subjected before they put onto the market. It is used to render textile goods for their purpose. Secondly, this process is carried out for both aesthetic and functional purposes. In finishing, बेटा they see कि वो जो aesthetically and functionally purpose के लिए ठीक है. Aesthetically means जो देखने से अच्छा लग रहा है, and functionally कुछ fabrics होते हैं उसका कुछ function होता है, like for which they are used. So they see that are they suitable for these two purposes. At last, machines used for finishing. Two machines are there which are used for the finishing, which is stanter machine and second is calendar machine. About stanter we have discussed, and for the calendar we are now discussing. This is the calendar process. This is the calendaring. Calendaring is an operation carried out on a fabric to improve its aesthetics. To improve the aesthetics of fabric, in which fabric passes through rollers, and these rollers are two kind of rollers are there, hard and soft rollers, which are placed in a definite order. Soft roller का क्या use है? Soft roller compressed with cotton or wool paper or linen paper, and hard roller is made up of iron or steel. Pressure and heat, these two depend on the type of finish required. It's only depend upon the कि हमें कौन सी finishing चाहिए, उसी हिसाब से we will set the pressure and heat. Okay, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So these are the purposes of calendaring: to upgrade the fabric, to impart smooth and silky touch to fabric, to compress the fabric and reduce its thickness. Compress the fabric, compress करते उसको and they reduce उसकी जो thickness है उसको reduce कर देते हैं, कम कर देते हैं. To improve the opacity, to reduce air permeability of fabric, to impart different degree of luster, to reduce yarn slippage. Then at last, this is the process known as sanforizing. Sanforizing allows preventing the cotton from shrinkage when it is washed. This is mainly used for the cotton fabrics. This is the method of stretching, shrinkaging, and fixing. The fabric is continually fed into sanforizing machine. ये भी जो प्रोसेस है वो कंटिन्यू होता है, जिसमें सैनिटाइजिंग मशीन में जो क्लॉथ है कंटिन्यूसली उसको सैनिटाइजिंग के लिए देते हैं हम. They are in moisture with either water or steam. They either use water or steam to moisten the fabric. Students, समझ में आया सभी को?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you sure?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so can I ask you some questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's start with Avantika. Avantika, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, did you attend the last lecture?
No, ma'am.
Very good. Anji, Shivani.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good morning, Shivani.
Good morning, ma'am.
So Shivani, tell me what is gray fabric?
ग्रे फैब्रिक
Yes.
मैम बता रही हूँ याद ही नहीं आ रहा.
You attended last lecture, Shivani.
यस मैम.
So tell me what is gray fabric?
मैम ग्रे फैब्रिक मैम 2 चीजों से बनती है वो.
इससे
6% इम्प्योरिटीज होती है और रेस्ट ऑफ द
no, this is
परसेंट.
not the definition of gray fabric. हाँ जी विकास.
यस मैम.
What is gray fabric?
मैम उसमें टीसी काउंटिंग होता है.